My wife, Emily, came home from church that Sunday looking different. There was a glow about her, an energy I hadn't seen in months. The moment she walked through the door, she didn't even greet me properly, just locked the door behind her, grabbed my collar, and started tearing at my clothes. Now, don't get me wrong. I wasn't complaining. Lately, I'd been the only one keeping the flame alive in our marriage. But that day? She was the one who couldn't keep her hands off me. Damn, Em, what got into you? I chuckled as she pushed me onto the couch, straddling me like a woman possessed. She didn't answer. Just kissed me harder, biting my lip. It was all so strange. But I didn't stop her. I was a starving man, and my wife had suddenly decided to feed me. Everything was fine, until it wasn't. Right in the middle of our moment, as I held her close, she pulled back with a sigh and muttered something under her breath. It's just not the same. I froze. My grip on her hips tightened. What? She blinked, like she hadn't meant to say it out loud. Then she gave me this forced little laugh and shook her head. Nothing, babe. Forget it. Forget it? Oh, hell no. My mind started spinning. Something about the way she said it. Something about the way she felt different in my arms. Then came the final nail in the coffin. She sighed dramatically and ran a hand through her tousled hair. Did you get smaller? My blood turned to ice. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said it. The way her lips twisted in disappointment. I pushed her off me so fast she barely had time to react. The F*** did you just say? Emily scoffed. Relax. It's just a joke. But she wasn't laughing. Neither was I. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my breath coming out sharp and fast. That wasn't a joke. That was comparison. And there was only one reason a wife would compare her husband to someone else. She got up, rolling her eyes. Oh my God, Nathan, don't start. I swear, you're so damn sensitive sometimes. But I wasn't listening. Because in that moment, a sick feeling spread in my stomach, and I knew. I knew. Someone else had been touching my wife. And she had liked it. I sat there, still half-dressed, my mind racing. The room felt smaller, suffocating. Emily stood up like nothing happened, fixing her hair in the hallway mirror, humming. Humming. Like she hadn't just spat in my face with those words. It's just not the same. Did you get smaller? Who the F*** was she comparing me to? I forced myself to breathe, to think. There had to be an explanation, right? Maybe she was just being cruel. Maybe she wanted to get under my skin. But then, why today? Why the sudden change? And then it clicked. She'd just come from church. Emily never came back from church acting like this. Ever. I stood up slowly, my movements measured. Who is he? She turned, one eyebrow raised. Who is who? I took a step forward. The guy you've been ing. A flicker. Just a flicker of something across her face. But I caught it. Nathan, you're being ridiculous. She rolled her eyes again, grabbed her purse, and started walking toward the bedroom. I don't have time for your stupid jealousy. I have things to do. I followed her. I bet you do. She whirled around so fast I almost crashed into her. Jesus Christ, Nathan, grow up. I made a joke, and now you're acting like a lunatic. If I wanted someone else, don't you think I'd have left you already? No, I said quietly. Because that would mean losing stability. Losing comfort. You're the type to have your cake and eat it too. She laughed, but it wasn't real. Wow. You've officially lost it. But I saw it now. the little cracks in her act. The way she kept looking at her phone earlier. The way she had too much energy. The way she was so eager, so hungry, like she was still running off the high of something forbidden. The church. I stepped closer, so close I could see the faint smudges of lipstick at the corner of her mouth, missed in the rush. "Who is he?" I repeated. She didn't answer. And that silence? That silence told me everything. I felt my pulse in my throat. My hands clenched. "You met someone at church?" Emily scoffed, turning away. "Oh my God, I can't with you right now." I grabbed her wrist before she could walk away. "Tell me I'm wrong." She yanked her arm free, fury in her eyes. But behind the anger? I saw something else. Guilt. And that was when the dam broke. I lunged for her purse, ripping it off her shoulder before she could react. "Nathan," she shrieked, but I was already tearing through it. Lipstick. Wallet. Gum. A receipt from some fancy restaurant I sure as hell hadn't taken her to. And then my fingers closed around something. A small, folded note. Handwritten. With shaking hands, I opened it. "Can't stop thinking about today. You are a blessing, Emily. Let's meet again soon. I'll be waiting in the confession booth." There was no name. But I didn't need one. Because right at the bottom, where it should have been signed, was a small, looping signature. A cross. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. The new pastor. That smug, holier-than-thou son of a bitch who had just started leading sermons last month. The one Emily wouldn't shut up about. Pastor Daniel. I looked up at her, the paper trembling in my grip. "You're ing the goddamn pastor?" Emily crossed her arms, her face a mask of defiance. "Give me my stuff, Nathan." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Unbelievable." I said, "Give it to me." I tore the note in half. Then in quarters. Then into tiny, pathetic shreds. She lunged for me, slapping my chest with both hands. "You childish piece of s********. I caught her wrists mid-swing and shoved her back. "How long?" She shook her head, lips pressed tight. "How long, Emily?" She stared at me, breathing hard. And then, with the coldest *****ing smile I had ever seen, she said, "Long enough to know the difference." I saw red. She smirked, tilting her head. "You want details? Fine. He makes me feel things you never could. He knows how to." I punched the wall so hard the drywall caved in. She flinched. For the first time, she looked scared. "Good." I stepped back, running a hand down my face, trying to steady my breath. My knuckles throbbed. Emily straightened, brushing invisible dust off her dress. Then, as if this was just another *****ing day, she grabbed her purse from the floor and walked past me. "Where do you think you're going?" My voice was hoarse. She didn't even look back. "To shower." A pause. Then, over her shoulder, "He's coming over later." And just like that, she walked away. Leaving me standing there. Breathless. Seething. Ready to burn their world to the ground. I stood frozen, my breath coming out in sharp, uneven bursts. She said it so casually, like she was telling me she was meeting a friend for coffee. But no, she was bringing him here. To my house. To my *****ing bed. A laugh bubbled up in my throat, twisted and bitter. It wasn't funny. Nothing about this was funny. But the sheer audacity of it, the sheer disrespect, made my skin crawl. She wanted to humiliate me. She wanted me to know. I should have seen it coming. Emily had never been the type to sneak around forever. No, she liked control. She liked power. And what better power move than throwing her affair in my face like it was nothing? But she had made a mistake. She thought I'd roll over. She thought I'd stay weak. I had other plans. I forced myself to move, my steps slow and deliberate as I walked to the kitchen. My hands were still shaking, but my mind was suddenly clear. Too clear. I opened the drawer, feeling the cool weight of the object I was looking for. The biggest knife we owned. I dragged my thumb across the blade, watching the way the light gleamed off the sharp edge. I imagined Pastor Daniel's face. His holier-than-thou smile. His hands on my wife. I imagined his voice, whispering the same soothing words he used during sermons, only this time, in her ear. And then I imagined what it would feel like to carve that smile off his *****ing face. I gripped the knife tighter, my jaw clenching. Then I set it down. No. Too easy. Too impulsive. And way too fast. If Emily wanted to play games, then fine. I'd play. But on my terms. I walked to the bedroom, my eyes scanning everything. The clothes on the floor. The perfectly made bed she had probably just ruined with him days ago. The framed wedding photo on the nightstand, me in my suit, Emily in her dress, her eyes full of promises she had no intention of keeping. I picked up the frame, staring at it for a long moment. Then I hurled it against the wall. Glass shattered, shards raining onto the floor like broken pieces of my own stupidity. I heard the water running in the bathroom. She was still in there. Good. I grabbed my keys. I had a few things to take care of before our esteemed guest arrived. 2 hours later, I was parked across the street from the church. The lights were off inside, but I knew the bastard was in there. I had done my research on Pastor Daniel. New to town. Married, but his wife was conveniently away visiting family for the month. Young, charming, good-looking. The kind of man women trusted without question. The kind of man Emily couldn't resist. I sat there, watching. And then, right on schedule, the side door opened. He stepped out, dressed in casual clothes instead of his usual robes, looking exactly like the kind of guy who would preach about loyalty while screwing another man's wife. I exhaled slowly, gripping the wheel. This wasn't just about Emily anymore. It was about him, too. He had made a choice. He knew she was married. He knew exactly what he was doing. And now, he thought he could just keep living his life like nothing happened. Not tonight. I got out of the car, my footsteps silent as I crossed the street. He didn't even notice me until I was right behind him. Evening, Pastor. He froze. Slowly, he turned. When he saw me, his lips parted slightly, surprise flickering in his eyes. Nathan, he said, his voice smooth. What are you doing here? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Figured we should talk. Man to man. He hesitated. Of course. But if this is about church matters, it might be better to. I took a step closer. Cut the crap. Something changed in his expression. He knew. He knew. But he played dumb anyway. I'm not sure what you mean. I laughed, shaking my head. Really? You're gonna stand there and pretend you don't know why I'm here? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Nathan, listen, I understand you're upset, but... I was in his face before he could finish, shoving him back so hard he stumbled. Don't you ****ing stand there and talk to me like you didn't just crawl out of my wife's bed. His jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. He didn't even try. That was the moment I knew, he wasn't sorry. He never had been. To him, I was just an obstacle. An inconvenience. Something to be removed. And I could see it in his eyes now, he wasn't afraid of me. He thought I was weak. He thought I was nothing. That was going to change. He exhaled slowly, straightening his shoulders. Nathan, I think you should calm down before you do something you regret. Wrong choice of words. Because I didn't regret a damn thing. Before he could react, I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the brick wall. His head snapped back with a sickening thud, and for the first time, I saw it, fear. You're a man of God, right? I whispered, my grip tightening. Then start praying. His hands scrambled to push me off, but I was stronger. I was furious. And I wasn't done yet. He struggled, his hands weakly pushing against my grip, but I didn't let go. I wanted him to feel it. The power shifting. The fear creeping into his bones like poison. Nathan, he gasped, his breath ragged. You're making a mistake. I pressed harder, the veins in my arms bulging. No. You made the mistake. His face twisted, not in guilt, but in frustration. Like I was ruining his fun. I slammed him against the wall again, this time harder. His head snapped back, and a pained grunt escaped his lips. You like taking what isn't yours? My voice was calm. Too calm. You like sneaking around? Lying? Acting like you're untouchable? I leaned in, my lips inches from his ear. You thought I wouldn't find out? He sucked in a sharp breath, his fingers curling around my wrist. It wasn't. Shut the F*** up. He froze. Good. I could feel the tremor in his body now. He wasn't just afraid, he was calculating. Looking for an out. I smiled. You're wondering how to talk your way out of this, aren't you? He didn't answer. So I answered for him. You can't. I let go so suddenly he nearly collapsed. He coughed, rubbing his throat, his eyes darting around as if expecting someone to save him. No one was coming. It was just me and him. And I wasn't done yet. Let me guess, I said, tilting my head. You're gonna say it just happened, right? He swallowed. Nathan. You didn't mean to. You got caught up in the moment. You were weak. I took a step forward. Tell me, Pastor. Did you pray before you ed my wife? Did you ask for God's blessing while you were inside her? His face twisted in disgust, or maybe it was guilt. I laughed. No clever sermon now? No moral lesson? Funny how that works. He wiped at his mouth, his jaw tight. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But this isn't. This isn't what? I cut him off. What it looks like? I scoffed. It looks like you were screwing Emily behind my back. Silence. And there it was. The truth, staring me in the face. I had known. From the second she muttered those words in my ear, did you get smaller? She had been comparing me. She had been remembering him. My fingers curled into fists. How long? He hesitated. I stepped closer, my voice dropping. Don't ing lie to me. He exhaled sharply. A few months. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth would crack. Months. Months of her coming home, kissing me, looking me in the eyes like nothing was wrong. Months of lying, sneaking around, pretending. I stared at him, my vision tunneling. You walked into my home. My life. And you helped yourself. He looked away. Coward. Tell me, I whispered, stepping in so close I could see the sweat beading on his forehead. Was it worth it? His throat bobbed. It wasn't about. Don't give me that, I snapped. Was it worth it? His lips parted, but no sound came out. And in that moment, I knew. He wasn't sorry. Not really. He was only sorry he got caught. I nodded slowly, backing up. My pulse was steady now. My mind was clear. Good, I murmured. I needed to know. He frowned, confused. And then I turned and walked away. I could feel his stare burning into my back, his mind racing, wondering if this was over. It wasn't. Not even close. I got in my car, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Emily wanted variety. She was going to get it. But not the way she thought. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't some pathetic husband who'd cry himself to sleep while his wife disrespected him. I was vengeance. And when I was done, they would beg for mercy. I drove in silence, my fingers tight around the steering wheel. The city lights blurred past me, but I wasn't really seeing them. My mind was somewhere else, flashing images of Emily, of Pastor Daniel, of that smug little note he left in her purse. They thought they had control. They thought I was weak. I pulled into my driveway, cutting the engine. The house was dark, except for the warm glow coming from our bedroom window. Our bedroom. I stepped out, moving slow, my heartbeat a steady drum in my ears. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. She was expecting him. I walked inside, my footsteps light against the hardwood floor. From the hallway, I could hear the soft hum of the TV, background noise. But that wasn't what caught my attention. It was the sound of laughter. Her laughter. That high, teasing giggle I hadn't heard in months. The one she used when she wanted to be charming, to be irresistible. And then, a man's voice. Low. Familiar. He was already here. Something inside me snapped into place. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way I had been. No, now I was focused. I walked toward the bedroom door, my pulse steady, my breath even. I didn't bother knocking. I pushed it open. Emily was sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing nothing but one of her silk robes, the short one. Her hair was still damp from the shower, and she was holding a wine glass, her bare legs crossed. And across from her, sitting in my F******ing chair, was Pastor Daniel. He had changed out of his casual clothes. He looked comfortable, relaxed. Like he belonged here. They both turned at the same time, the conversation dying on their lips. Emily blinked. Nathan? Her voice was even, controlled. Not a single trace of guilt. Daniel's expression was more careful, his eyes scanning me, measuring. I smiled. Neither of them moved. For a moment, the room was filled with nothing but the soft hum of the television, the distant sound of cars passing outside. Then, slowly, Emily set her wine glass down on the nightstand. I thought you were out, she said. I shrugged. Plans changed. She studied me for a long moment, and I could see it, that flicker of uncertainty. Because I wasn't acting like the betrayed husband. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't breaking things. And that scared her. Daniel cleared his throat, shifting in his seat. Nathan, listen, I held up a hand, cutting him off. You know what's funny? I said, my voice light, conversational. This house. It's full of memories. Every corner, every room. This bed right here. I gestured lazily. That's where Emily told me she loved me for the first time. Neither of them spoke. I stepped inside, letting the door swing shut behind me. Emily sat up a little straighter, her fingers curling around the hem of her robe. Daniel shifted again. Nathan, I know this is. I laughed, shaking my head. No, you don't. You don't know a damn thing. He swallowed. I turned my attention back to Emily. I gotta say, Em, I'm used. I'm impressed. The pastor? Really? That's a whole new level of low. She tilted her head, lips curling into a smirk. Oh, come on, Nathan. Don't act so shocked. I raised a brow. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. You knew things were off. You knew something was wrong. But you ignored it. Because deep down, you already knew the truth. My fingers twitched. Daniel shifted again, looking between us like he was watching a bomb tick down. Emily's smile widened. You're just mad because I stopped pretending. I let out a slow breath. And then I laughed. Not because it was funny. But because she actually thought she had won. I stepped closer, towering over her. Tell me something, I murmured. When you crawl into bed with him, does he pray for forgiveness first? Her smirk faltered. And in that second, I saw it, the crack in her armor. She opened her mouth, probably to spit something back, but before she could, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Her eyes flicked down. Then back up. I tapped the screen, and the audio started playing. Her voice. Breathless. Giggling. Saying things she had no business saying to another man. And then, his voice. Low. Hungry. Confessing everything. I had recorded it all. Emily went pale. Daniel stiffened, his jaw clenching. I smiled. You thought I was stupid, I said softly. You thought I'd just let this happen, let you two ruin my life. I leaned down, my voice dropping to a whisper. But you forgot something, sweetheart. She swallowed hard. What? I straightened, tucking my phone away. I don't lose. And then I turned to Daniel. Pack your bags, I said. He frowned. Excuse me? I grinned, taking out a second phone. A different one. The one I had used to send the recording to his wife. To be fair, I said, slipping it back into my pocket, I don't think you'll need them. Something tells me she'll be throwing your S*** on the lawn before you even get home. Daniel's face drained of color. Emily shot up, panic flashing in her eyes. What the F*** did you do? She hissed. I smiled. And then I walked out the door. Let them burn. The night air hit me like a slap, cool and sharp. I inhaled deep, rolling my shoulders back, shaking off the tension. I'd done it. I'd torn the whole thing down. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. I got in my car, gripping the wheel. My phone buzzed, Emily, calling over and over. I let it ring. The desperation in her silence was louder than anything she could say. She wasn't scared for me. She was scared for herself. For her reputation. For what people would think. For what would happen now that the game was over, now that I wasn't playing along. I smiled. It was about to get so much worse for her. I pulled out of the driveway, my mind already working through my next move. Divorce? Too easy. Revenge? Not just revenge. Annihilation. Emily had built a life off of deception, smiling at neighbors, kissing babies at church, pretending to be the perfect wife. And Daniel? He was the righteous man of God, the one people trusted. I was going to take all of it. I was going to burn their world to the ground. I parked outside a small diner on the edge of town, the kind of place that was open late, where people didn't ask questions. The neon sign flickered above me, buzzing like a mosquito. Inside, I slid into a booth in the back, facing the door. A waitress with tired eyes and a forced smile came over. "Coffee? Whiskey?" She hesitated. "We don't." I pulled out $100 bill and slid it across the table. She sighed, snatched it up, and disappeared into the kitchen. My phone buzzed again. Not Emily this time. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I answered. "Yeah." A pause. Then, "What the hell did you do?" "Daniel's wife." "Perfect." I leaned back, smirking. "I did what your husband does best." Silence. I could hear her breathing, sharp and uneven. "I exposed the truth," I said. "That's all." Her voice was tight. "You don't understand what you've done." "Oh, I understand perfectly." "No, you don't." She sucked in a sharp breath. "You think this is just an affair? You think he's just another cheating husband?" My smirk faded. Something about her tone, it wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was fear. A slow, twisting kind of fear. I straightened. "What are you talking about?" Another pause. Then, quieter, "You need to be careful." The hairs on my arms stood up. She was warning me. Not about Daniel. About something else. Someone else. I gripped my phone tighter. "Tell me what you know." But the line clicked dead. The waitress returned, sliding a glass of whiskey across the table. I grabbed it, taking a slow sip, my mind racing. What the F*** was she talking about? I thought I had one. But something told me this was just the beginning. I stared at my phone, the screen black, her warning echoing in my head. "You need to be careful." That wasn't the voice of a scorned wife. That was the voice of a woman who knew something. Something I didn't. I took another slow sip of whiskey, letting it burn down my throat as I thought. I'd expected fallout, Emily crying, Daniel scrambling, the church whispering. But fear? That was new. And it meant one thing. There was more to this than an affair. I pulled up a number I hadn't dialed in years. Chris. Old friend, old favors. The kind of guy who could find out what people wanted buried. The phone rang once. Twice. Then, "Nathan?" "Chris," I said. "I need information." A pause. "About?" "Pastor Daniel." Another pause. Longer. Then a slow exhale. "Jesus. What the F*** did you get yourself into?" My grip on the glass tightened. "Tell me." Chris was quiet for a moment, like he was debating whether I could handle what he had to say. Then, in a low voice, he said, "He's not who you think he is." I leaned forward. "Explain." Another sigh. "I'll send you a file." "Chris. Just wait for it." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, the uneasy feeling curling in my gut. A minute later, a text came through. "Download attached." I tapped it, watching as a folder loaded. Photos. Documents. Screenshots of messages. And something else, a police report. I clicked on it. My heart stopped. Daniel wasn't just a liar. He was a predator. Multiple allegations. All buried. Covered up. And the worst part? The church had helped him do it. The same church Emily ran to. The same people who smiled in my face. They had protected him. My blood turned to ice. I scrolled through the evidence, my pulse hammering. The women, young, vulnerable, had come forward. They had tried. But somehow, it always disappeared. The police reports never turned into charges. The witnesses changed their stories. Someone was pulling the strings, keeping him safe. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't just about Emily cheating. This was about power. About a man who thought he was untouchable. But now? He wasn't. Not anymore. I finished my drink, stood, and walked out of the diner. It was time to end this. For good. The night air was thick, humming with the weight of everything I had just learned. My mind was a storm, thoughts clashing against each other like lightning. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about justice. About obliteration. I slid into my car, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. My breath was steady, but my blood was on fire. Pastor Daniel. The holy man. The leader. The one people trusted, who they turned to for guidance, a predator protected by a system built to keep him safe. Not anymore. I pulled out my phone, staring at the file Chris had sent me. Every page, every sickening detail, it wasn't just enough to ruin him. It was enough to destroy him. I hit dial. Chris picked up instantly. You read it? I read it. A beat of silence. Then, what do you want to do? I looked out at the dark road ahead. And then I smiled. I want to watch him burn. The church was packed the next morning, people flooding inside, shaking hands, hugging, smiling. Blind. Unaware of what was about to hit them. I stood at the back, my hoodie up, hands in my pockets, watching as Daniel took the stage. He looked untouched. Unbothered. Emily sat in the front row, her eyes scanning the crowd. Looking for me. I smiled. She wouldn't have to look for long. Daniel opened his Bible, clearing his throat. Brothers and sisters, today's sermon is about truth. I almost laughed. How fitting. I pulled out my phone, opened the email I had queued up hours ago. One click. That's all it would take. To every news station. Every congregation member. Every board member of the church. I hovered my thumb over the screen. And then I pressed send. A ripple moved through the crowd as people's phones buzzed all at once. I watched it happen in real time. Heads bowed to their screens. Confused frowns. Then gasps. And then, chaos. Murmurs turned into shouts. People stood, whispering, pointing. Daniel's face twisted in confusion. Then fear. Emily's eyes darted back and forth, panic setting in. And then, like a wave crashing, screams. A woman in the third row shot up, hand clamped over her mouth. One of his victims. She turned, her voice shaking but loud enough for all to hear, "You ruined my life." Daniel stumbled back. More people stood. More accusations. His mask cracked. Emily grabbed his arm, pulling, but he was frozen. He saw it. The walls closing in. He turned, locking eyes with me from across the church. And I smiled. Because he finally understood. I don't lose. By the time the cops arrived, the congregation was in full meltdown. Emily was screaming at Daniel, shoving him, her perfect little world shattered beyond repair. Daniel? He tried to run. Didn't get far. I stayed back, watching as they tackled him to the ground, pressing his face into the church floor he had once stood above everyone on. I stepped outside, breathing in the crisp morning air. It was done. I had won. My phone buzzed. Chris. I answered. Yeah. A chuckle. You really did it, huh? I smiled, watching the sunrise. Yeah, I said. I really did. Then I hung up. And walked away.